Welcome from sunny San Diego, California. We are reaching you in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, live and through a unique and complex international telecommunications network via satellite, microwave, and cable. The International Training Center at San Diego State University brings us together once again through this original video conference program, which joins distinguished organizations representing education, business, and government in Mexico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. We also welcome Spain, the United States of America, the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C., and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, in Geneva, Switzerland. During our program today, we will examine the important topic of knowledge protection and management. This is the 11th video conference of the year 2001 series on New Generation Knowledge for Productivity and Global Success. I'm Jan Andersen, Associate of the ITC, and your moderator for today's program. As technology continues to evolve and we experience an ever-increasing rate of technological innovation, organizations are finding that knowledge provides significant competitive advantages. As a result, knowledge is becoming more and more an important asset to companies. This trend is evidenced by the fact that businesses are becoming more specialized. They are developing increasingly narrow niche markets. The capacity of firms to develop new and innovative products to deliver these markets will determine their level of success. Because of these trends, organizations are becoming increasingly dependent upon intellectual property rights, a fact underscored by the United States Patent and Trademark Office, which reports a 50% increase in patent applications filings since 1996. Today's organizations, therefore, need to monitor and actively manage their intellectual property rights to a much greater degree than they ever have in the past. In fact, this is becoming a requirement for competing effectively in many of today's niche markets. This unique video conference will review intellectual property rights, regulations, and practices, and will better prepare you to deal with intellectual property rights in today's environment of high-tech change. Let me introduce our presenters for today's program. Our first guest, Peter Albert, is a managing partner with the San Diego office of the intellectual property law firm Lyon & Lyon. Mr. Albert's practice encompasses all phases of international patent, trademark, and copyright litigation, prosecution, licensing, and intellectual property counseling. He has experience with a variety of technologies, including computer hardware and software, and the Internet, cellular communication systems, ultra-fast laser applications, multi-layer optical elements, digital analog circuits, fuzzy logic controllers, broadband antennas, and robot guidance systems. Mr. Albert has written the legal treatise, Intellectual Property Law in Cyberspace, which is published by DNA Books. And he has authored or co-authored numerous articles on the subject of intellectual property law, including many dealing with issues of copyright law in cyberspace. Mr. Albert is a frequent lecturer on intellectual property law, an adjunct professor of law at the University of San Diego School of Law, and a faculty member of the Patent Resource Group. He also teaches seminars on intellectual property issues. He teaches these seminars on the intellectual property issues that are raised by the Internet, and he is a domain name arbiter for e-resolution. Peter obtained his BS from Michigan Technological University and his JD from the John Marshall Law School in Chicago. Our second presentation consists of an interview that was conducted earlier with Dr. Lowell J. Burnett. Dr. Burnett is president and CEO of Quantum Magnetics, a high-technology firm specializing in the development of advanced magnetic instrumentation, which he founded in 1987. The company has quickly grown and currently is experiencing steady growth with expanding programs in mine detection, aviation security, and weapons detection and tracking. Dr. Burnett has pursued a 30-plus year career as a physicist, specializing in chemistry and physics instrumentation. Earlier in his career, he had a special appointment as a presidential fellow at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, after which he accepted a faculty position at San Diego State University, where he has served as physics professor, as department chairman, and now as professor emeritus. Dr. Burnett is the author or co-author of over 150 journal articles, technical reports, and conference presentations, focusing on the areas of measurement and detection. Dr. Burnett received his Ph.D. in physics from the University of Wyoming in 1970. Welcome, gentlemen. We look forward to your presentations. Before we begin our first module, I would like to ask you to both comment on an interesting observation. Although knowledge management is being widely recognized as a key competence for educational institutions, corporations, and government agencies around the world, most organizations address this topic with a rather defensive perspective. Let's protect our intellectual property, or else someone will steal it away. How valid is this concern today? Is it better to manage our knowledge with the same legal care with which we handle tangible assets, or should we have different attitudes towards intellectual property?
Well, protecting intellectual property is very important, and as technology gets more complex, I believe it becomes more important. But it's also important to recognize the limitations of intellectual property protection. And you can't base your entire business on intellectual property.
And on protecting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter, do you have similar thoughts? Or?
I agree. Intellectual property is very important, especially to many new technology companies. Oftentimes, it's one of the most valuable assets that this company will have, as opposed to prior businesses where their main assets were tangible, such as the inventory that they had or the machines that they own to produce their products. New technology companies often are valued based on the knowledge of their employees and their technology, and thus intellectual property is a very important asset to these companies.
Now, both of you are kind of commenting on intellectual property in the more patent and trademark area, I suppose, more in the notion of physical equipment and tangible assets. Should we think that same way when we think about intellectual property as knowledge per se? You know, just as the original ideas, as the formulation of information?
Well, in a university atmosphere, there's a natural tension, I think, between free disclosure, public disclosure of information, and the desire to protect it in some way. Mm-hmm. And that's a natural thing in a university environment.
Yeah, that's something I'm certainly very familiar with. Teaching and learning is dependent on the free exchange of ideas, and we've always operated in a world where it is important to share that information. In fact, most of us do our research and publish it in journals, and no one pays us to do that, and our universities even underwrite it.
Well, that was a big change for me when I went from the university environment to a corporate environment. Mm-hmm. That was one of the biggest changes that I had to adapt to.
Yeah, I remember when I moved into administration and was describing a communication strategy. I'm a communication professor. I was describing a communication strategy. The manager said, "If I were you, I wouldn't share that knowledge." and that just totally, took me aback, because I could not imagine that one wouldn't share everything that they knew, because that's the enterprise of the university environment. Now, how about it in business? Is it ever wise for a business to share knowledge, to just, put it out there free? Does that ever lead to things down the road, Peter?
I think in some situations it does. And an example of this in current times is the sort of open source code movement going on in the software world right now. By publishing and freely disseminating knowledge, such as Microsoft has done in some situations with their operating systems in Windows, it allows others to build upon that technology and actually make the underlying technology, Microsoft's operating systems, more valuable. If Microsoft didn't share some of its knowledge and some of its corporate secrets on how its operating system worked, applications developers wouldn't be able to develop the applications needed to run on these products. And so there are situations when it is worthwhile to actually disclose valuable corporate knowledge.
Yes, and I think also, we don't want to suggest too much of a difference here in university environments, one of the things that has now happened in university environments is, as intellectual property has gotten more valuable, there have been increasing tendencies for professors to want to protect it and perhaps even sell it. So in the corporate environment, sometimes it makes sense to give it away, as is sort of in our university culture. In the university environment, sometimes it makes sense to hold on to it. I think we'll get back to some of those issues as we go through our presentations today, and then as we get some questions from our audience later on down the road. So thank you very much for this discussion right now. And let's go on to Module 1, where Peter will explain the basics of intellectual property law and how organizations should go about protecting it.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by defining intellectual property. Intellectual property is the category of property related to a person's or company's intangible assets. Many traditional property rights known to people also apply to intellectual property. For example, real property laws prevent others from trespass on or from using the property of a landowner. Similarly, intellectual property laws prevent others from using or trespassing on the intangible assets of an intellectual property owner. The value of many traditional manufacturing companies is largely measured by its physical assets, such as its inventory, manufacturing equipment, or building or manufacturing facility. However, to many new technology companies, its intangible assets are its most valuable property. Intellectual property can be used to secure an advantage in the marketplace, generate revenue through licensing, or even as collateral for obtaining financing. With the old industrial era being supplanted by a new knowledge-based economy, ideas and innovation, rather than land or natural resources, have become the principal wellsprings of economic growth and competitive business advantage. There are four principal types of intellectual property: patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. Each type of intellectual property protects a different aspect of the idea or innovation. In fact, a single product can embody all types of protectable intellectual property. Patents are one of the most powerful types of intellectual property. In the United States, a patent is granted by the federal government and gives the patent owner the right to exclude others from making, using, selling, offering to sell, or importing a product embodying the patented technology. One important aspect of patent protection is that it can be used to prevent another from practicing the invention, even if the other entity does not copy the patented technology, but independently develops it. However, a patent does not confer an absolute right to manufacture or use an invention. For example, an invention, which is an improvement of another patented invention, does not give the inventor of the improvement the right to make, use, or sell the entire invention without obtaining rights from the owner of the basic patent encompassing the invention. Also, a patented article may be illegal to make, use, or possess, or it may be regulated by other laws. Patents come in three varieties: utility, design, and plant. A utility patent covers the functional aspects of an invention. A design patent covers the ornamental design of an article of manufacture. A plant patent covers distinct and new varieties of plants. Utility and plant patents last for 20 years from the earliest filing date of the corresponding patent application. A design patent lasts for 14 years from the date of grant of the design patent. Any process, machine, article of manufacture, or composition of matter can be the subject of a utility patent. Courts have held that software, business methods, bioorganisms, and isolated gene sequences fall into the categories of patentable subject matter. Non-patentable subject matter includes laws of nature, natural phenomena, and abstract ideas. Machine patents, also known as apparatus patents, are what most people think about in terms of patented inventions. This category of patents includes any tangible device in which components interact, such as an automobile seat assembly, recliner mechanism, or seat frame. Process patents cover the methods or process used, for example, in the production of a device or product. This category has been found to apply to computer software. Articles of manufacture comprise devices without moving parts, such as a soap dish or water spray nozzle. Finally, compositions of matter include compounds and mixtures, such as plastics and drugs. This category has also been determined to encompass life forms, including both single-cell and multiple-cell organisms. A common misconception is that ideas can be patented. Technically, that's not true. A device or method implementing idea can be patentable, but the underlying idea cannot. For example, the idea of a self-cleaning oven is not patentable, but a specific oven that includes specially treated interior walls that are heat activated to be non-stick may be patentable subject matter if the other patentability criteria are met. In addition to falling into one of the categories of patentable subject matter, an invention must also be useful, novel, and non-obvious in order to qualify for patent protection. Because the United States has a first-to-invent patent system, the utility, novelty, and non-obvious patentability requirements are determined based on the state of the art at the time of the invention, not at the time the patent application is filed. The United States is one of only a few countries to employ the first-to-invent patent system. Most other countries employ a first-to-file system in which the patentability determination is done based on the state of the art at the time the patent application is filed. This is an important distinction because in some cases, the first person to file a patent application is not the first person to invent the subject matter of the patent application. Certain events can preclude patentability by destroying either the novelty or non-obviousness of an invention. In most countries, publication, public use, or sale of a product embodying an invention destroys the novelty of the invention and thus creates a bar to patentability of the invention. The United States has a one-year grace period allowing publication, public use, sales, or an offer to sell a product embodying an invention, as long as this does not occur more than 1 year before filing a patent application claiming the invention. Thus, it is very important to pursue patent protection as early as possible. This often creates a problem for startup or emerging growth technology companies wishing to leverage their technology to generate revenues or financing to fund a patent application program. Once the novelty or non-obviousness of an invention is destroyed, patent rights for the invention are lost forever. Thus, it is extremely important for companies to treat their technology with the utmost of care, and companies should consult a patent attorney before ever disclosing a new invention. The patent system is a quid pro quo system in which the government typically requires an inventor to make a full and accurate public disclosure of his or her invention in exchange for a limited monopoly to practice the invention. This type of patent system is meant to encourage inventors to create new inventions and share their discoveries with the public. The public disclosure is generally made by publishing the patent application within 18 months from its filing date, thus affording the public the opportunity to learn from and build upon the information included in the patent application. Without a patent system, individuals and businesses would be less likely to undertake research and development, since they would not be protected against competitors copying their successful ideas and products. Even though publication occurs within 18 months of filing a patent application, a patentee does not obtain enforceable rights under the patent until the patent is issued by the Patent Office, which often occurs after the corresponding patent application has been published. A patent's value is derived from the right to exclude others from making, using, selling, offering to sell, and importing the claimed invention. The patentee can use this right to generate licensing revenue by granting exclusive or non-exclusive licenses to others. The patentee can also use this right to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace by excluding his or her competitors from making, using, or selling products embodying the claimed invention. Courts often enforce patents by issuing injunctions prohibiting continued or future infringement of a patent, or by awarding money damages for past patent infringements. Up until recently, corporations have attempted to generate revenue from exciting new and innovative ideas by incorporating them into products or services. But in today's new economy, many companies are instead bartering, licensing, or selling their technological innovations for tremendous amounts of money. For example, IBM currently generates well over $1 billion in revenue every year from licensing its intellectual property, unrelated to the manufacture of a single IBM product. Intellectual property is also having an effect on new business formation in the capital markets, as startup firms seeking capital discover their chances of being funded are much greater if they have patent protection for their risky new ventures. Jay Walker's Priceline.com is a case in point. The company, which runs an auction business on the web, gained national notoriety in the summer of 1998 when it won a patent for its method of doing business, a buyer-driven form of electronic auction. Having a broad patent was crucial not only in attracting former Citicorp president Richard Braddock as the firm's CEO, but also in raising venture funding for the firm to the tune of $100 million. Intellectual property has also served as the hidden motive behind a number of the biggest corporate mergers of recent years, including the $10 billion acquisition of Netscape by America Online. In that deal, many analysts wondered why Sun Microsystems had joined the acquisition of Netscape, because Sun's costs in the deal appeared greater than the $500 million worth of internet servers that AOL had promised to buy from Sun. Sun's COO shed some light on the situation by admitting that what really got Sun excited about the deal was the ability to control Netscape's intellectual property. A Goldman Sachs research report indicated that through the deal, Sun gained access to key software that could have cost upwards of $1 billion plus a considerable amount of time to develop internally. In short, patents can be used to generate revenue through licensing, boost earnings per share and total shareholder return, improve return on investment for R&D and to seed continuing innovation, raise corporate valuations and enhance equity and other financing opportunities, serve as the currency of mergers, acquisitions, and joint ventures, gain patent-protected entry into lucrative but hotly contested markets, and acquire exclusive rights to emerging market-leading technologies. Dell Computer Corporation is an example of a company that leveraged its patents to carve out its own portion of a hotly contested market, the personal computer market. Dell's computers, though of good quality, are manufactured using mostly the same off-the-shelf components that other computer manufacturers use. However, Dell's claim to fame has been its pioneering build-to-order direct sales model that enables buyers to order a custom-configured PC through the internet or via a toll-free telephone number. The orders are processed through a continuous flow manufacturing configuration and customer service operation for delivery to home or office within 72 hours. This efficient process has enabled Dell to compete in a market notorious for its low profit margins. It also made Dell the envy of its competitors, several of whom attempted to mimic Dell's direct sales approach. When Dell's arch-rival, Compaq, unveiled its own build-to-order system, Dell asserted several patents it had obtained covering its direct sales approach against Compaq, successfully blocking Compaq from using Dell's efficient sales process. This is just one example of a company using its intellectual property to secure a competitive advantage in the marketplace. In the last decade, universities have begun to recognize the value of innovations developed in their research labs. Stanford University and the University of Michigan have become the models for other universities across the United States and around the world. These universities typically form technology transfer departments that negotiate the licensing of technology with professors, graduate students, and entrepreneurs seeking to capitalize or commercialize on technology. Licensing of technology creates revenue for the university to use on future research. Strong technology transfer departments and the opportunity to commercialize development has also been a valuable tool for recruiting the best and brightest students. Although there are certain centralized international or regional patent filing and examination offices created by various treaties, patent rights are generally controlled on a country-by-country basis. In other words, a patent filed in the United States only provides the right to exclude others from practicing the invention in the U.S. Most industrial countries have their own patent system, and each country's patent system includes its own rights and requirements. One of the better-known IP protection entities is the World Intellectual Property Organization, also known as WIPO, which is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and of which 177 of the world's countries are members. WIPO enforces a number of international treaties with regard to intellectual property rights as they apply across different countries. The organization's main function is to help the people of one country obtain intellectual property protection in other countries. They also work to harmonize intellectual property legislation and procedures, provide legal and technical assistance in developing and other countries, and facilitate the resolution of private intellectual property disputes. But again, someone wishing to file for a patent in their own region should look first to the patent offices in their individual countries.